Magical quip machine.
Yeah.
Like a
testing levels 1 2 1 2.
sing-songy delivery for some
like
punchlines.
he had the Bamford too. Cool. So we're live in 15 seconds.
I have listened to one of his old albums. Not every track is like banging. He's actually not murdering at every track.
Yeah.
It's comforting because it goes like.
He was also doing like rock and roll clubs, which is interesting because he was like really testing the. All right, 2. What up?
Yo, how much are we going to grow to resent that song?
So far, I still love it.
I still love it. I saw you do like a little worm with your arms dance move. I still love it.
It's so funny. Like, I'm actually not a bad dancer, and but I kind of like I want to wait for my wedding to show off to all my friends, because I want you guys to really be surprised. Like, I want you guys to walk away going like, "Did you know Whit could actually kind of throw down a little bit?" Not like a good dancer in terms of like how dancers are good dancers, but just how like fat guys at a wedding are good dancers. I'm really good at that.
Well, fat guys at weddings who dance inherently have an X factor about their moves because people are always stoked that they're moving.
Jesus.
I mean,
they're like, exercise. Good job, buddy.
I mean like they're moving and you're definitely a guy who is more athletic than you look.
Yeah, definitely.
You move better than you
definitely.
look. You are portly. I'm not doing a fat joke.
No, yeah.
Yet. But I mean, I will do one eventually. But
soon, yeah. It's better when there's a third person here.
It really is.
But otherwise, it's just kind of like you're just being like, bro, get it together.
It really is like Christian Duran, our worst co-host, is gone right now, and not much of an exclusion, but he is running late.
You guys probably didn't even notice he was gone.
He's so soft-spoken. Our impression of Christian is to go, "Hi, everyone.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Christian."
You're like, Christian, this isn't NPR, dude. You're going to have to...
I want you guys to watch future Hall of Famers. It's really fun.
Everything Christian... I think when Christian... his accent, Christian's Dominican, but his accent is ASMR. He has an ASMR accent. It's not.
I thought you were gonna say he has an accent. I was like, I never detected that.
For sure, he doesn't have an accent.
Yeah, no, not at all. But that's really funny.
Saying we should kind of act like he does to him. Be like, there's the Dominican coming out.
So that's what we could do. So like, if you're listening to this and we like to fuck with each other, and since Christian's not here, you guys can kind of be in on the joke before he is.
One thing, real quick, can I interrupt you? I'm sorry.
Yeah, go.
One way I'm fucking with Whit right now is I'm actually tugging his penis under the table.
And one way I'm fucking his Brett is with I'm not gonna come. He wants me to, but I'm not gonna do it.
It's gonna be an 80-minute podcast. You're gonna listen to.
You're talking, and you're just thinking, "Well, he's a stallion."
Longest hand job in podcast history.
Easy.
That needs to be a poll.
It would beat the Mark Maron Gallagher episode, which is the previous record.
Oh, yeah. What were we gonna say though?
We could do like a bit where like Christian comes in and we both go, we were listening back to the podcast. We never knew that you had an accent. We heard it on the podcast. And like, you could do it better than me because I'm bad at fucking with people, but you could totally convince him. You could be like, I get why you're Dominican. Like, you have a little bit of how fucking funny would that be?
Dude, because Christian has the least. No, there's clearly none.
There's no accent.
And we're like, I'm probably 5.5 years into my friendship with him.
Yeah.
You've known him for 7?
About 8, actually.
Yeah, because you guys met first doing comedy in New York.
Yeah, we probably met almost exactly 8 years ago.
And you guys both had just moved here.
Yeah.
Yeah, you moved here from the mountain.
Which not really, but everybody thinks I moved from the mountain because everybody knows I grew up on a mountain. And my friend group.
People listening now,
not people. I'm just saying, like, everybody assumes that when I do the material, they like, oh, he lived in a mountain and then he moved here to do comedy, which would be way more impressive. Yeah. I lived in Savannah for like 2 years before. So, I needed a starter city.
But just so people who are listening to the podcast and who are getting to know us.
Yes.
No, Nick Whitmer was raised on a mountain because his father moved him there in preparation for the doomsday that was going to come after the Bill Clinton election.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not. I'm not.
No,
being
that's
funny.
100% true.
Yeah.
Yeah. 96. We started getting our house built in like 95. It was done by like, I think summer of 96. We moved like 2 years into his term.
Is there a doomsday real estate agent?
That'd be great.
Who's like, and right here?
Well, there's definitely whoever was the real estate agent for that mountain definitely didn't know that they were, but they definitely were a doomsday real estate because everybody else up there was prepping.
They were like, not a lot of my clients have teeth.
Well, everyone's asked about a bunker. Like, no, you have to build your own.
Like the real estate agent's like, do you mean basement? And they're like, no,
that'll
bunker.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was crazy. So I think what it was, and I've been doing the joke for a while now, because I just have to keep doing that joke until it gets, published somewhere, I guess.
What, that you raised on a mountain?
Yeah, like it's every time I do the road, I close with it. I don't do it all the time in the city. Sometimes every now and then.
For sure, talk about that on stage.
I mean, you have to, exactly. So like sometimes I hate how like I have a bit in my act that's as old as that one.
Yeah.
But then sometimes I'm like, that's actually one of my strongest bits still, even though it's old. But yeah. So I actually, the longer I think, like it was all syncing up with Y2K. So he got elected in like 94. Was it 94 or 92? It was 92. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm getting it. We moved up there in 1994. 1992, he gets elected. And 8 years exactly from 92 is year 2000.
Right.
Y2K. The banks didn't know how to program zeros, so all of the shit was going to turn off. And that's what was going to be what we're prepping for. I think my dad like pivoted because I think originally it was like the biblical apocalypse because my dad was like a doomsday prepper but who like was like a born again Christian. Yeah. So I think that he thought that like because I remember him telling us about the rapture and how like we needed to survive for like 7 years until Christ comes and this, that, and the other. I remember those stories. But then as we got older, it was definitely like, no, it's Y2K. Duh. You know what I mean? So we stopped like thinking like the God part of it was going to happen and more just, oh, Y2K was going to happen.
I feel like Jesus wouldn't want to hang out with the preppers.
No.
The ones who survived, he would come back and he'd be like, they're like, Jesus, we made it. And he's like, oh, is it you guys?
Yeah.
Like, he would be bummed out.
Yeah, he would not want to be around any of his followers.
Like, it's kind of
any of his followers, he'd be like, ugh.
I was hoping to be Richard Branson. Go to that island.
You know how, like, when you travel, you become more worldly and you feel like you go to a small town, you meet somebody who's never traveled and you can just kind of tell. But, like, you've been to Italy and you've been all over the country or all over the world, right?
No, I know what you're saying. I haven't been all over the world, but I've been to Italy with family trip, and we've been to Greece family trip.
Yeah,
and those are those are the European countries. I haven't been to any. I've only been to Europe as the continents.
Yeah. But you know how like when you see there's something about seeing how other people live and just being a little bit more, and then you meet people who've never traveled and who never even left their town, and they're very like they're just a certain way, and I think that's how like Jesus, like could you imagine if Jesus was like this whole thing's real? He gets crucified, he then goes into the dimensions of the world, and he's just and then he comes back for the apocalypse, and then everybody who is on his side is just this guy named Earl who sucks. Like Jesus is gonna be like, yo, I've changed. Like I don't want to hang out with Earl. He sucks. You know what I've seen? You know the shit I've seen?
Hey God, we need another flood. Yeah, fast.
Yeah.
I think Jesus would be weirded out by some of the stalking and the following of him. I think he would like me. Like I'm into him enough. Like I read some of the Bible and I don't I try and limit how much I'm jack off.
Yeah, I mean you didn't move to a mountain for him, but I mean
you're already like Jesus listens to our podcast. Like you're just making sure you're in front of me in line.
Listen, 8 years, baby.
Yeah, that's nice to know that Jesus would favor you over me.
Probably.
I don't know. Actually, if you actually had to think about it, I have a more prototype body. What else?
I like how that's how he is. He's up there judging that harshly. He's like, well, let's get down to the bodies of it.
I picture Jesus like and God per person.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you create a player in Madden.
Yeah.
and you get to assign, or FIFA or whatever video game.
Yeah.
You get to assign attributes, 1 to 100 on speed.
Yeah.
1 to 100 on agility. 1 to 100 on shooting. 1 to 100 on all these things. I kind of think we all have that.
Really?
For very different. So it's not just physical attributes like speed and power.
And dick size.
And dick size. I'm not going to share my rating on that.
Yeah, no, it's under 50 though. Speaking for myself, I mean.
I think we all have that, like, a little bit for, kindness and good humor and sense of humor. Like, sense of humor, for sure, like, 99. Dude, she is.
No one brags about their sense of humor.
It's very
unfunny people.
It's very funny to brag about if you're doing it correctly. And I hope people perceive me doing it ironically, and they're not like, this is the least funny human being of all time. It really is, like, there is nothing less funny for a comedian to say. Like, when people are like, are you funny? Like, what the fuck am I going to say? Oh, dude, I'm hilarious. No, I'm not going to say that.
Yeah.
You just have to be like, I don't know.
It's just,
I hope.
Yeah.
You can't, because it immediately creates, like, with stand-up and comedy, saying you're really funny, immediately, it's unlikable.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not going to like that guy.
Yeah, it's like I'm still really bad at that. Even after a show, it reaches a threshold where somebody comes up and, like, says you're funny. And, like, the first couple of times, you're like, oh, that's great. But you know how sometimes you get the more extreme people who are like, no, you're, like, seriously. And then I get so uncomfortable because we're talking about me right now. What am I supposed to be like? Yeah, totally. No, you're right. Yeah, no, totally. Yeah, I'm so funny. You're right. Like, after, like, 30 seconds, I'm like, okay, I'm like, so what's your name? And, like, I always try to put it on them, and they're like, oh, it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? They're never, like, fun people to talk to.
Yeah. I know what you're saying. I mean, no one ever compliments me after shows, but I can kind of picture what that's like.
Do you ever judge a set by that?
No.
I do sometimes.
By how many people? Like,
yeah.
I understand when Jordan and I do, my brother Jordan, also a comedian, do road shows, and it's just us two sometimes. You can tell a little bit how a show went. Obviously, you can just tell from being on stage. And like, oh, there was a lot of laughs a lot of times.
Yeah.
And also, one of the signifiers is if you're standing near the door, how many people are like shake your hand and be like, yeah, that was funny.
Yeah.
And how many people just like beeline right by you.
Yeah.
You can tell who had fun and who didn't. Based off of that.
No, I mean, I sometimes, like, I'll go on stage and have a good set and I'll feel it. I'll be like, oh, that's great. But then after, like, 35, 40 minutes or so, I'm like, I need another dose. You know what I mean? I need someone to come up to me and be like, hey, that was really good. And then I'd be like, all right, good. Now I have confirmation that it's not just me who thinks it's funny.
Yeah.
All I need is one person usually to come up and just say something. And I hope it's short as possible. That's how insecure I am, I guess. I hate that that's a part of me, but it really is.
Yeah, people act like there's a post-show high. It's like 10 minutes long.
Yeah.
Even if for a show that, like, went really well.
But I tell you what, a post-show high after, like, 5 or 6 people coming up after you and telling you how much they loved it could last a couple hours. But it's also one of those things that I always say, like, especially for us, because, like, we're not at a point where, like, people really know us by, like, looking at us. So it's one of those things that after you really do well, and after someone comes up and tells you did well, it's really great. But as soon as you walk out of the front door of that venue, it just disappears with you.
Of course, yeah.
Because I do this. We did this all the time in the Village, where we'll have a really good show at a club. We'll leave the club, then go to the bar next door to have a drink. And as soon as you walk into that bar, and there's all these people who have no idea what just happened next door, and you just feel like, oh, I'm just a.
I ask the DJ if I can plug my iPhone in and play a recording of that set that went well.
Yeah.
And then I do, and I learned it wasn't that good of a set.
Judging by how a bunch of drunk people who don't want to listen to it like it.
Yes.
There's a lot of comedy like that, though. That's what Old Man Hustle is. Old Man Hustle is just interrupting people's times.
Yes.
No one has ever gone to Old Man Hustle for a comedy show. They just end up in one. They're like, oh, this bar looks cool. Let's we haven't seen each other since college. Let's sit down and catch up. And then 5 minutes into their conversation, someone comes up. All right, guys, show starts in 5 minutes. And they're like, well, show?
Oh, cool music.
Are they going to play like acoustic guitar or something? That's fine. A little ambiance for this conversation that we've been needing to have for 5 years. And then it's, oh, what's up, guys? Clap. Oh, you're not clapping? Oh, what are you, a piece of dog shit? Oh, what are you, the worst human being? Why aren't you clapping? Give it up for yourselves for coming out. And it's like, dude, I was here to just talk to my friend.
Ambush comedy shows.
They're the worst.
Comedy is like sex in that it has to be consensual. It really does. Like when you force it upon others, because they're not in the wrong for being annoyed.
Yeah,
they didn't opt in for a comedy show.
Yeah.
Why would they? They don't have to hear your ideas about Hot Pockets and race. And it's like that's Hot Pockets and race is a combination of Jim Gaffigan and like Chappelle.
But that's like one of the things that I don't love about having to turn a terrible audience around. Like, I know it's different because they're there for a show. If I'm assuming it's not one of these ambush shows. Like, if they bought a ticket, and you know how sometimes audiences are tight, and then you have to, like, wake them up and, like, get them back. So, some part of me is like, you guys aren't into this, so I'm not going to make you into this. You know what I mean? Like, if you guys don't like me, like, that's fine. We can just stop doing this.
Well, you're saying, like, I understand if you don't like me because you like the person you're with, and that's why you're here.
Yeah, I guess what it is like, I love playing catch, and I don't want 80% of the time I'm playing catch just trying to convince the other person to play catch with me. You know what I mean? Like, that's what when an audience is just not into it for whatever reason. Like, we've all had those shows that are just like, why did they even come? Like, why do they plop down money to come to this show?
Sometimes they didn't come.
Yeah, that's true, too.
Yeah, and that's another way it's like sex. We can probably end the podcast there.
Yeah, Christian comes in, we're like, oh, we finished. We only needed 10 minutes.
Brett had this great joke. What was it? I said cum.
It's like cum, like people, you know. You wouldn't get it. You weren't there.
It's like really funny. Wait, is there anything on your mind that you want to talk about? We can get out of the comedy weeds.
Yeah, the Holocaust has been something. No. Sorry, I went there. I really want to talk about wrestling, and Christian's not here.
This is what sucks because Wrestlemania was this past weekend, of which I watched 0 minutes.
Yeah, I watched exactly 0 minutes of it.
Perhaps proud of that.
But me too. But the news that came out of Wrestlemania is just something I really want to talk to Christian about.
What is it?
Well, it's because
just so people know. Sorry to interrupt you. Christian Duran, our co-host, who isn't here because he's late.
And a piece of shit.
Is a ginormous fan of wrestling. Just a reminder, he's also a grown man, which I think those two, are worth mentioning back to back.
Fair.
He's not like 13.
Yeah, he's not, and he doesn't eat his own boogers. You know, like you would assume he's a booger eater. He's not.
He's 42.
He's a very put together 42-year-old man. So wrestling's fake. Everybody knows wrestling's fake.
Yes.
And wrestling fans will tell you, yeah, we know it's fake. Don't be condescending. I know it's fake. But none of their actions suggest that they know it's fake. So 2 things happened this weekend. One of them has happened in the car ride.
But can I interrupt?
Yeah, go.
In their defense, they're talking about a TV show. They know it's a TV show. Like every TV show, Breaking Bad, Mad Men, etc. Well, me and you are having a conversation about Breaking Bad. We don't have to every few sentences go, I mean, I know it's fake, but Walter White's story is really interesting.
But here's the thing. I mean? If you ran into Bryan Cranston in the street, you wouldn't act like it was Walter White. You'd be like, oh, that's Bryan Cranston. That's the actor who played Walter White.
I think in 2019, people less often treat actors or athletes as like props or mascots for their character.
Yeah, maybe. I think those people are dumb though.
I think if you do like shout a character thing at a celebrity, you're an idiot.
Yeah.
That's like one way to classify yourself as dumb.
Yeah.
Is if you would see Bryan Cranston on the street and be like, yo, Mr. White. You're stupid.
Yeah. So 2 things happened. On the car ride home, so me and Christian co-headlined a show in Baltimore. It was awesome, and Christian was watching on his phone this like Hall of Fame induction. Yeah, I know they do have a Hall of Fame for I mean, I don't. When the whole thing's fabricated, I don't. Okay, it doesn't matter.
That's the Emmys, though. That's just the Emmys.
Yeah, but it's treated as if it's like the NFL, and it's
Christian would be so proud of me for defending wrestling.
So somebody comes. So this wrestler's making his speech, his Hall of Fame induction speech, and then this crazy fan runs to the ring and tackles him. That guy thinks it's fake? No, that guy thinks it's real. Why else would that guy be like, no, fuck Bret Hart. I remember what he did in 96 at WrestleMania 17. Like, bro, it was the script. Like, you have to like, what are you doing? So that's the first thing that happens, that I'm like, this guy doesn't think it's. And then the second
Let
thing
me
that
ask
happens,
you this.
Yeah.
How do you know that that's not fake? Kind of not kidding. How do you know that it's not written for a quote fan to tackle a wrestler, and that fan is actually
because I saw
not
the,
an actor?
I saw the clip on Twitter, and like the people who responded to it would have to be like fucking amazing to actually pull that off as if it was fake.
Because I could see. But
it's also like there's nothing more disrespectful than at your own Hall of Fame, and like there's no way you would be in on it. It's your Hall. This is your moment.
Wrestling is a different world, man. It's like they would do shit at the Wrestling Hall of Fame. Yeah, you would never tackle, an actor getting on. You would never tackle Rami Malek mid acceptance speech for
Yeah, of course.
But it would be kind of hilarious.
I mean, yeah.
Especially since those actors are giving like speeches like they're truly the world's greatest assets, and they're the ones.
It's all about them. It's crazy how.
But I kind of feel like that fan that tackled Bret the Hitman Hart is a Juilliard grad. He's like an incredible actor. That's what you have to remind yourself with commercials and shit. The actor in it is
just in time. We're talking about wrestling.
We are talking about wrestling. Christian Duran is in the building.
Sorry, boys.
And
hey, it happens, bro. Let me get your mic on.
There I am.
Sorry.
There's a famous podcaster named Luis J. Gomez, who's a Puerto Rican rattlesnake. Christian, you are now the Dominican Cobra.
I gladly accept that. You know what's crazy about New York?
I thought you were like already going into wrestling. I was like, I'm so happy.
You didn't even need to be
anyway,
here.
WrestleMania. No, the
What's
crazy thing about New York is like you always think a cab is gonna get you there faster.
Oh yeah.
It never happens. Any yellow cab. This dude. I go. I'm going to Front Street. So he's like, oh, where's that? I'm like, okay. So let me look it up. Like, you take Lyft and Uber, so you get spoiled, or you just type in your shit, and they know where they're going.
Yes.
Yellow cabs, like, it's a shitty situation because they work so hard and they pay all this money to get a medallion.
Yeah.
And Uber
and now it's imaginary.
Yeah, exactly. It might as well be a fucking Chuck E. Cheese coin.
Yeah.
You know?
They they put a mortgage down
Yeah,
on a thing that gets stapled to the front of a car, and now it's meaningless.
It was a thing that they were gonna pass down to their kids.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
It used to be a lifelong like kind of meal ticket. You were never gonna get rich, but you were gonna be able to be steady.
Yeah, you would always have a thing. But they're getting pushed out because they just don't know what the fuck they're doing. So like I get in this cab and the guy's like, where are we going? I'm like, Front Street, 145 Front Street. Where is that? I'm fucking like I live in Manhattan. I don't live in Brooklyn. So I'm like, all right, let me Google Map it for you.
And,
so
he goes, "Was that?"
Yeah. So then I'm like J Street. It's J Street in New York. If you want to come kill us, this is where we are. It's J Street in New York. He's like, all right, cool. And then he starts going, is that the Brooklyn Bridge? I was like, I think. Like, I don't know. So we're going. He's like, hey, can you just put in Waze for me? And I'm like,
oh my God. He's making requests.
I know. So I put it in Waze for him, and we're driving. I got my headphones in. I'm just, whatever, it's fine. Hey, can you take the TV off back there? Because I fucking hate it. All right, cool, man. So we're driving.
God, the freedom. They don't have to get a 5-star review. They can just be hey, can you turn that shit off?
Hey, and then he hands you back a sandwich. Hey, will you open that for me?
It's like a road trip.
Can you put some mustard on that?
Can you open the Coke for me? I can never open the Coke.
There's some loose roast beef in the back. Can you just make me...
Yo, hold up. I gotta piss real quick. He just leaves it running.
Stops at a rest area.
So yeah, and then we put it in Waze. Okay, so here's the thing: we put it in Waze, but then he still wants me to direct him. So he's like, so I'm like, just follow Waze. He's like, is it straight or left? I was like, I don't know, man. I take the train here every time. It's not like we finally get here, and he's just like, this fucking place, man. So fucking confusing to get to. I'm like, yeah, that's why I took a cab. So I finally got here, but
Nice.
anyway.
I do like blaming you a little bit. I am paying you. I'm not. This isn't like you're my buddy, and I just
right. It's not, and also, if I'm working at a restaurant, I know what all the menu items, or I should know what all the menu items are on the restaurant. If you drive a cab in the city, you should kind of know where everywhere in the city is. I get not knowing, but
there is I feel like there was an era, probably of New York, where you could just say an address and somehow the cabbie knew it.
Yeah.
This is like 145 Front Street. And just boom.
All right, got
Well, that's like how you learn directions by doing, and like
right.
now with your phone is you don't have to learn directions
Of
because the
course.
directions always tell. Like
I don't know my girlfri's phone number.
Dude,
No,
me
yeah.
either. I thought about that too. If there's ever a situation where
I
like
know. Well, no, I know
had to-
Sarah, your fiance.
Yeah.
I didn't know Natasha's. But
if I had to call her for some emergency, like my phone's dead, there's a payphone, and my mom's dead, like I would pick up the phone and be like, I don't know. I think it's 30. I don't.
I'd be like, type in DEE to your contact list, and then D will come up.
You call the operator. Give me. You're like, that doesn't work like that anymore.
Give me D, please.
Yeah, how is she's in my phone? D from Maine. Still the adorable first date.
Oh man.
Yeah, man, that is a very weird. This is why sometimes I want to give a quick anecdote about when I over relied on map and address and didn't even process the directions to look at it.
Yeah.
Many years ago, like 6 years ago, when I was in New York for 3 months, I had an internship. One of my friends, Emma, invited me to go to a late night with Jimmy Fallon taping. She had, I guess, an extra ticket. And she goes, oh, do you want to come? And I was like, of course. And she's like, cool, it's at 30 Rock. And so I typed into my phone the address 30 Rock, 30, and one came up 30 Rock Street. And I go, oh, yeah. It's got to be at 30 Rock Street. Like the show 30
Why
Rock.
wouldn't it be? Yeah.
It's a famous show.
As a comedy fan, you should know 30 Rockefeller Center.
I swear to God, this is real.
Oh, no.
And I didn't think about, and I followed the directions on the MapQuest thing. And I get out of the subway, and I am like somewhere in literally like Dumbo, Brooklyn, and it is an industrial Navy yard.
Oh.
And I'm looking around, and I'm like, all right, I know in the intro there's a skyscraper. Like it was literally a moment where I was like, I looked at the building and I was like, it sure looks different. And,
Wow, the TV makes it look so glamorous.
it does. It adds so many floors to the building.
Oh man.
What were you guys talking about before I came in here?
We were talking about wrestling.
Were you really?
Yeah. Well, I came in hot wanting to talk about it, and then.
Well, you got to know, Oh Dear is the preeminent wrestling podcast.
Yeah, you didn't know that.
As it should be.
Yeah.
And now that we have you here, we'd like to move on to the next subject, so we can torture you.
Yeah, we finished. Anyway, you guys want to talk about hockey?
We were on our Whitmer and I did a show in Baltimore, and we were driving up with hilarious comedian Lance Pocker, and like we were driving there, and at some point I started talking about wrestling because WrestleMania was this weekend, and it gets like really quiet, and I can just talk for like too long, and then like. They started talking about hockey because they're like, oh yeah, like we're talking about.
I
like,
can't
Jersey.
believe anybody knew. I love hockey, but I don't have a hockey friend.
Right.
I do, but they're like they live in other states. Like Lance actually watched hockey and he knows all the players.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is great. I'm actually talking with a hockey fan. It's nuts.
But then I got super quiet. It was really funny how that dynamic happened. One person talking and then two people talking.
I think every person probably has a thing where they're so interested in it and they really love it.
Yeah.
But they don't have that many people in their immediate orbit that share that interest. For me, it's like indie rock. I'm a nerd about that. anytime I try and tell Whitmer about it, you just say like, "Oh, your music's like sad white boy gay shit."
Yeah, that sounds right.
And Christian, you listen to like La Bamba and stuff like that.
You know what's crazy? I used to. I actually go to you for recommendations every now and then.
Yeah, and nothing makes me happier than getting to recommend a band.
God, I'm sorry, Brett. You'll never get that from me. I'll never be like, I'm looking for a new brand. Let me ask Brett.
Well, you know what? You were in the room the other week when one of my friends called me and was like, "Hey, what was the name of that song you showed me?"
Yeah.
And you rolled your eyes that one of my friends liked a song that I recommended.
Yeah.
And you're like, God, it just feeds his like feeling that he has good taste. I'm a tastemaker. It's fine.
Yeah, well, you know.
Yeah, but I know what you mean, because like if you have like that one thing you want to talk about and like nobody else shares, especially like wrestling, because it's like, it's fucking. I get why people think it's lame, but like the people who love it, love it. It's.
I reminded people at the beginning of the podcast. I said Christian is a huge fan of wrestling, and he's also a grown man.
We made a disclaimer for you. Like, he's not 40. Yeah. Or sorry, he's not 13. He's 42.
Well, the funny thing is, like, I think Dan St. Germain was talking about it. He's like, being an adult wrestling fan is like being gay in the 50s. Like you have to hide it, and if you meet one, you're just like, hey, what's up? Like you have like code to talk about it to another friend.
You're doing like back alleys.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah,
what we were talking about is that wrestling fans, like you admit that wrestling's fake.
Yeah.
See, that's the thing.
It's scripted.
Every time I try to every time I talk to an adult wrestling fan, I'm like, it's fake. And they're like, yes, it's fake. And then, like, I see the behavior, and I'm like, they don't think it's fake if they act like this. So, like, two examples, and I only got to one of them. The first one was that guy who tackled Bret Hart.
Yeah.
He thinks it's fake? No, you don't do that.
That guy thinks it's real.
That guy, exactly. The guy who does that is not like, this is all scripted. You know, he's literally like, fuck that guy, I'm going to like, that guy thinks it's real. That guy thinks it's real.
But here's the thing, the Pizzagate guy thought it was real too. Like, that's
I know,
that
but like,
kind of guy.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But here's the thing I honestly believe about wrestling is I think some people a little bit believing it's real makes it better.
Yeah.
If every one of them was a fan in the way Christian's a fan, where they're, you know, like they really love it, but they know
it's
So it's like more fun that some fans, and there are some fans I've heard wrestlers talk about, and you know, not to be the one who talks about it when you're in the room. It's literally, this is like me being the one to be like take the mic to talk about wrestling is like a white guy in a room of black people, and he's like, let me talk to you about Black Lives Matter. Like, it feels like, what are you doing, bro? This is my shit. But
people who believe it's real.
Yeah, they make it better.
Yes.
But everyone's not like you.
If like 15% of people thought that Game of Thrones was fucking real, that would be nausea. That would be like, okay, we have a huge problem.
It's different.
Well, it's a different thing. It's thinking it's real and investing in the story is different. Thinking it's real is like, and I hear wrestlers talk about this a lot. Like, if you go in the Bible Belt in the Midwest, they think it's real.
That's what
grandmas and shit think it's real as fuck. Whereas, like, you know, the Northeast fans invest in. We know it's not real, but there are real elements you attach yourself to. For example, this past weekend, this wrestler named Kofi Kingston won the WWE Championship.
Yeah, that's another thing. He's black, and everybody's like, "Oh, it's the first time in WWE a black guy." Everyone, I'm like, "Yeah, but it's scripted. They could have done it years ago. They just didn't do it until now."
Exactly, but here's the thing:
so why?
No one's ever. But that's the thing. It's like no one's ever scripted a black guy to win the top championship before. So that's a very real thing in wrestling.
Because the writer finally had the idea.
But it's like
the writer's room was like, all right, we're out of ideas. Let's put the black guy in, and then now it's like a revolutionary thing.
No, I mean, it's kind of all about. It's very much of the time in that, like, you know, like Black Panther getting a Best Picture nomination or whatever, or Black Panther being the highest grossing movie. It's part of that.
But that would be like, but it's the president in that show 24 was black. No one's like, oh, that was the first black president. Do you remember that in 24 season 3?
No, but there is still like I still think there's something valuable to latch on to even a fictional president in a TV show being black. Like, there still is. That's a step forward that we're not going to show in fiction, which can have like not affect reality, but in fiction we're gonna have a black president, and it's not gonna be like the biggest. Oh my God, he's black. Like every storyline is like, he's black, right?
Yeah, half of Deep Impact was them being like, "The fuck is this Morgan Freeman? Why is Morgan Freeman president? He's black."
Yeah,
I just thought the greatest idea for like a disaster movie would be one like that where the president is black, but they have to go through all the shit that Obama had to go through still in the middle of the disaster movie. They're like, listen, there's a meteor coming. They're like, don't shut up, Muslim. It's like, what are you talking about?
I do like the idea of some wrestling fans. This Kofi Kingston, first black WWE, I guess, world champ.
Yeah.
Some wrestling fans are like, let's see his birth certificate. There are birthers for Kofi Kingston.
That would be amazing.
A little bit of a dick.
Amazing.
This would be a little bit of a dick too. Obama's the first black president. He's half black. The Rock is half black.
Yes.
And he was the heavyweight championship. So like, how is this the first?
The Rock wasn't.
So is the first full black?
No. That's kind of the thing. It's
that's
like
a little
the
weird.
Rock was.
That's a little weird.
The Rock, people. It's a weird thing because people go like, oh, he's half Samoan because when he sort of comes out, it's more about the Samoan thing. It's less.
Wait, what's his?
He never goes.
So
I'm
he's
not
half
black.
Samoan, and then what's his better half?
He's
just kidding, everyone. Just kidding. I just wanted to say that. Oh dear. Just say oh dear, so I'm absolved of my sin.
He's half black, half Samoan. His dad was black, and his mom is Samoan.
Oh, so it wasn't racist. I was calling his better half black, so it's actually tolerant. So flipped it on all of you.
Yeah, fuck Samoans.
But yeah, so people were going like, Kofi's the first black. He's not real. I mean, you got to count The Rock. But it's been 20 years.
So it's basically been the first time in WWE history where a black heavyweight champion would be palatable by the fan base. So isn't that more of an indictment on the fan base than it is about anything?
Yeah. No. Well, you know what? The big thing. Here's the reason this is so big. In 2003, there was a dude named Booker T.
Yeah, I remember him.
Right, Booker T, right? So he was wrestling Triple H at WrestleMania, the Super Bowl of wrestling, right? And the whole storyline was Triple H going, hey, boy.
Oh.
Wrestling used to be like this a lot.
Right. He's like, a guy like you doesn't deserve to be the champion. You've been to jail. You did this and that. Someone like you doesn't deserve to hold the title. And it was heavily... this was Booker T's road to redemption and storyline because Booker T actually went to jail at some point and and he made good
in his actual life.
In his actual life,
and so they
incorporated that
in the character.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and they put that in the character and were like, he came from jail, but he made some of himself. He cleaned up his life, and now he's a contender for the World Heavyweight Championship. And in that match, Triple H won cleanly. There was no
burn a cross in the ring.
They might as well have. And if you look back at the storyline, you go, they were treating this guy like shit, and there's an undercurrent of racism in it, and the black guy didn't win. So it feels bad.
Yeah,
it's not even that sounds like an overcurrent, though.
But it also sounds like they were completely pandering to their base, who were all probably going like, "Yeah, fuck him."
Here's what I want to know, and it sounds like though he was. I assume Triple H was the heel.
Yes,
like in this story, heel being villain for those who don't know wrestling,
yes.
And Booker T was the hero.
He was the hero,
or he should have. I mean, I guess heels can still win, and maybe that makes it like a form of. What the fuck?
Right.
But there's something worse, is when the heel wins and he's like a racist heel.
Right.
Like if he's just like a bad guy who's like, this town sucks, you guys are fucking idiots.
Yes. There's a level of it where it's like, there's a level where if a guy's really bad and he cheats to win, then he gets quote unquote heat. He gets more hate from the fans because not only did you not deserve to win because you were a fucking racist, but you cheated to win and you cheated the hero out of his victory, which is going to get you more heat, which kind of works for the storyline.
Keeping momentum in like
momentum.
Did Triple H cheat?
No, he did not cheat.
Okay.
Not only that, but he hit Booker T with his pedigree, which is the signature move. Yeah. And waited a long time to pin him.
Pedigree is even a racially involved word. For the record.
And he waited extra long to pin him.
He smacked him with the purity ring. Yeah. You're like, oh.
He dropped the separate but equal elbow on him.
Oh, my God.
Oh, dear.
He brought out the Plessy versus Ferguson. And you're like, no, this is... The civil wrong scramble. Oh man! So he's
got the urban development headlock on right now. But yes. So a lot of it also was that because fans were like, well, they did it one time, they could do it again.
So who is he fighting this time?
Kofi being was his opponent saying, I doubt he was doing as much racial.
No, his opponent wasn't doing racial stuff. Vince McMahon himself came out and handled
no one can call him the N-word except for me. I can get away with it.
Vince McMahon says, I just don't think you have it. You're a B+ player. Kofi, you're a great athlete, but fuck you. And then he would put him in like gauntlet matches and handicap matches before this, and he would screw him over.
Vince McMahon was, that's why wrestling's fascinating.
It's an old billionaire telling a black guy
trying to be.
He's the master.
Like he's playing a little bit of a role of, like he's playing the villain to be fuck Vince McMahon.
Exactly.
Yeah, how does that read to like he's gonna start the XFL and like that doesn't look good.
I mean, did you see the John Oliver piece?
No.
Oh, you guys got to watch it.
I did watch it. John Oliver did a really good
on wrestling.
Yeah, I talked to you about
on
it.
XFL or on wrestling.
On wrestling.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the whole thing is they're no, the whole thing. It's actually a pretty interesting thing is because they're independent contractors.
Oh yeah,
but they work exclusively for WWE. So there's certain terms in their contracts.
Yeah, that's actually illegal, I think.
Yeah, it's a weird.
It's like permalance. It's like they're freelance, but you can only work here.
Exactly.
If you were like, I think the way it works is like I was freelance for a little bit, but if that employee wanted to hire me for like 40 hours a week consistently, he would legally have to hire me.
Yeah,
I couldn't be because you have to give him benefits and shit like
right.
that.
Exactly.
Do they not get benefits?
They don't.
What the fuck, dude?
Yes, that's the whole
piece
point
of shit, dude. It makes me hate it even more.
Yeah,
people shit on the NFL. What the fuck?
Yeah, that's the whole thing. And there's no pension, there's no retirement, there's no nothing for these guys, and they work
crazy.
They work five.
You told me you told me their schedule. It's like they have like Monday Night Raw is like the main show, but then they get on the road and they do like shows like Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. They have like one day off during the week. It's like Thursday. They work like 6 days a week.
Yeah,
then they're also traveling on their only day off. Yeah, like the amount of like schedule that these people do.
That's the thing that to relate it to like the fake versus real thing. As someone like you, really, I think appreciates and it's impressed upon the like life sacrifices these guys make to be entertaining, and to like entertain us.
Yes, So yeah, that's the whole thing. There's two shows, Monday Night Raw and SmackDown, right? So if you're on Raw, your schedule's this: Monday night you're on TV, Tuesday night you're doing a live show while SmackDown is on, Wednesday night you're going home. That's your home date, and then Thursday is also your day off, but half the day you're flying to the next town because you got to be there on Friday. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you're back on Monday. And if you're on SmackDown, you're working.
What do you mean
Monday.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday?
You're
back
working.
On Monday?
You're working Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Like
and
practice and rehearsals?
Like house shows. So basically untelevised
shows.
So you're working Monday, Tuesday. You're off Wednesday. Have half a day Thursday because you're traveling half that day. Or sometimes you'll do media or press. And then Friday, Saturday, and Sunday you're working all weekend. And then you're back on Raw on Monday on TV.
Yeah.
And there might be a pay-per-view on Sunday. So
not to mention that, like, even your day off, you, like, probably have to work out.
Right,
and, like, look fit.
You're working out, or you're doing a Make-A-Wish, or you're doing whatever media appearances they have.
Make-A-Wish should do something for them.
I know. Make their wish.
Come on. Jesus Christ.
Just give them healthcare. They give one wrestler healthcare.
The media is so anti-NFL.
It's like Tom Brady gives them or something.
Yeah.
The media is so anti-NFL, they go after him for every little thing. Meanwhile, it's like the thing that I said the other night when we were eating Burger King. It's like it's good to be number 2 sometimes because McDonald's goes through all of this shit. Like, what percentage of beef is your burger?
That's a good
Burger
point.
King just skates, but they serve garbage. No one ever is criticizing Burger King for like what's on their menu.
Yeah,
McDonald's gets all the heat for that.
No documentary came out in the early 2000s called King Size Me.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they McDonald's. You are right. Yeah. Being number 1. You're the one who takes all the arrows, so, like, and then someone.
These media people are holier now going after the NFL. Meanwhile, like wrestling's happening totally fine. Yeah. It's like no one gives a shit. Professional fighting's also kind of fucked up.
But I mean, all entertainment is a little fucked up.
Yeah, I mean that's true. Well, the problem is there's always a
like this podcast. We don't have healthcare.
Yeah, I know. When the fuck are we gonna get healthcare, Nick?
Yeah.
I know, but if it's
we just nominated him to pair.
If it keeps staying this warm in the studio,
well,
you're the one standing up. Christian and I have seats. Yeah.
But I mean, entertainment's fucked up because there's always a new crop of people willing to do it for free.
It's like comedians.
Yes, of course. There's always going to be, if you don't want to do some club somewhere, there's going to be there's some open micers going to take.
They can always find another comedian.
Yeah,
anyone.
And they don't care.
And if not, they'll be like, all right, my uncle will fucking go.
Yeah. My uncle's got 5
Well, I wanted to
minutes.
mention about the like Booker T and I guess now Kofi.
Yeah.
It's basically the idea is like, it's good that it can be mainstream that a black guy is the primary protagonist.
Yeah.
Isn't that what it's kind of saying?
That's pretty much it, yeah.
And it's sort of what
I don't want
it
to make
relates to.
I don't want to make the same point again, but isn't that more of an indictment on the fan base of wrestling?
No,
than
I
it
don't.
is on-
It's an indictment. It's not just the wrestling fan base though, because it's wider than just wrestling. In my perception, that generally speaking, it's now becoming more normal or normalized that like a black guy can be the lead of a Hollywood blockbuster, and not even just like Black Panther, but like there was a story from the last couple of weeks with the Jordan Peele's new movie rollout, and what we mentioned, have talked about it together. Jordan Peele had a point where he said like he basically wants to just like cast a black family and it's
normalize it.
It's just a black family.
Yeah,
it's a family. And it's just a family.
It's not a black family, it's a family.
Yes, exactly. That's how And, I mean, we can talk about this, but some people in media reported that, and they it's almost like he says a really, thoughtful thing, and then it can get distorted.
As fuck white people.
As just
the headline, this is what the headline literally said, sorry, white men, but Jordan Peele's not casting you in his movies anytime soon.
Yeah,
you know what I
and it was
say?
written by and I'm not even joking, that is the exact tone of the headline. And it was written by a white woman.
Yeah.
I'm like, what the...
You know what I have to say to that? Wait till Jordan Peele sees me. And then I come in, hello, my baby. Hello, my darling. The sun will come out. Jordan, what do you think?
But yeah, I that is funny that Jordan Peele's just like, yeah, I think I'm going to hire African American. And then some white lady's like, you see, you fucking white men.
Yeah.
Fuck you.
And he was just like,
I'm okay with it, dude. Chill.
Yeah. He's married to a white woman.
Yeah.
He's clearly not a race.
Right.
So whatever. I mean, it's
Yeah.
nuts, man.
I mean,
but it really is to come back to our original point. It's just a shame Kofi's the main winner, right?
It's just not good for the business.
I like that I do like that Vince McMahon is willing to be the most unlikable villain, because I think that is harder and harder to find, probably, people willing to play that role in 2019 of crazy out of touch racist guy.
I know, because even, you know what's funny to me, and I've noticed this a couple times, every time Brad Pitt is in some kind of historical movie, like Brad Pitt ends slavery in 12 Years a Slave.
Yeah.
And Brad Pitt solves the financial crisis in The Big Short. He always makes himself the hero.
Wait, he was Abe Lincoln? I'm not in 12 years.
No. He's in 12 Years a Slave. What's his name? Benedict Cumberbatch and who's he? Michael Fassbender are the evil slave owners, and even Paul Giamatti's an evil slave owner. But Brad Pitt, who produced the movie, casts himself as the dude who finally lets him free.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, fuck you.
It's you remember that Willem Dafoe movie that just tanked?
Yeah.
It was basically the premise of the movie was Willem Dafoe and slavery. I'm not even joking. It was literally there were slaves. And then Willem Dafoe comes. This is the trailer. Willem Dafoe comes. And it's and he's charging on a horse.
I'm picturing him, a black guy stepping forward, and then he puts his hand on the black guy's chest and says, I got this.
Yeah. And it was based on a true story, apparently, of some white guy who freed some slaves or something from that. But I'm no one wants that anymore.
To say something I recently read, I read a book called The Radical and the Republican, and I'm not being a guy who's just I want to drop a book, but it kind of relates. The Radical and the Republican is about Frederick Douglass and Abe Lincoln's their relationship and just how they viewed each other.
They were fucking? Sorry.
They were not fucking. That would have been fucking. We would have known by now because progressives would have hopped that.
Yeah.
Shit. That would have been rammed down our throats if Abe Lincoln and Frederick Douglass were banging. But one of the really interesting points.
Hey, white men. Your two fucking leaders are fucking
Abe
fuck
Lincoln's
you.
white too, man.
Yeah,
Sorry
I
to
know.
disappoint you, white men, but your hero was fucking a black guy. You're like, what? I don't know him.
Yeah, I don't know, Frederick. He can do whatever he wants.
It's like Chuck Norris was fucking a black guy. Like, what?
I don't know about you. That's my hero.
Anyway, sorry.
But just I guess it tangentially relates. But Frederick Douglass on the unveiling of one of the Lincoln statues, this is like 20 years after his death. This is a joke. I don't know why you're looking at me with a smirk.
I don't know. Like,
He's
I'm
like waiting for
it.
the line. He's like waiting for the beat to drop.
No, but it just is. The statue is of a kneeling down, like African American, at Abe Lincoln, with holding like the Emancipation Proclamation and like a hand on his shoulder, and you're like, that. It's a statue, and that's not the right imagery. Where like it's in the vein of like we or he freed the slaves, and you're like, that's 1/100th of the story,
Right?
You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
Frederick Douglass gave a speech it was actually pretty cool. He gave his speech at that unveiling, and you know what's even crazy? Actually, the black congregation, like all the black leaders, it was their money who went into building the statue. It was not government funds, and it was not. It was all the black leaders' money. And the statue that was made was one where it looks like, and you know, Abe Lincoln is a hero, and I think he's one of the most incredible men who's ever lived in this country.
Yeah.
But you can understand, for a black guy at the time, one of the leading black intellectuals was like, damn. God damn it, man. And he loved Abe Lincoln after the fact. He actually hated Abe Lincoln.
You were just like a kid who had to stand up and like do a book report in the middle of class, and you like gained more and more confidence as you went. So like as you committed to the lie, you're like, yeah. And then
that's not a lie.
You started off, I was like, did he read the book? Did he like pick up this book in Barnes and Noble,
like,
and now he's telling us he read the book?
And then I'm dropping like parts where you're like, you know, Abe Lincoln, as we know, one of our presidents.
The 16th president.
And I get his name wrong. I'm like, and or I call him like Freddie Douglass. But I don't know why I said that. Maybe I just wanted to share that I read a book.
Sounds like
No, I mean, that's part of like what's going on right now. Like, if that kind of thing is like one of those things that people would be like, tear that statue down. Lincoln didn't fucking free this.
That one shouldn't be torn down, because that one's not. That's another discussion, tearing down statues.
I mean, I guess it was like tangential.
We can get into that, or we can just talk about wrestling.
No, it was like tangential to the point of Brad Pitt making himself a fucking...
yeah.
But also in The Big Short, which he produced, he plays the dude who's like, you guys shouldn't be shorting the fucking, you know, the housing market. Like, he makes himself like the right guy.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, go fuck yourself.
That's why I think in Django Unchained, Leo DiCaprio being evil slave owner was part of what made that an awesome movie.
Yeah,
because
totally.
Leo's only ever been
Good guy,
heartthrob, protagonist, dude on the... And you were like, it's a little weird, a little more jarring to see him be a piece of shit.
Is that the only villain he's ever played?
Yeah.
I can't think of another one.
Yeah, I mean, Blood Diamond, he was like anti-hero in a way, but
maybe like Titanic, because he's like a little bitch.
I think that if like going back to the statue thing, if we keep applying like today's morality to everybody else, there's not going to be a single statue, because everybody did something fucked up in some way.
Right.
Well,
like
the Lincoln
Thomas
Douglas
Jefferson,
thing, for the record, was him at the time calling that out.
Yeah.
So that, but yeah, go on. Sorry.
Like Thomas Jefferson was like another great man who like wrote the fucking Declaration of Independence, like third president, but he like fucked the slaves.
Yeah.
It's
now we're gonna take down the Jefferson Monument.
Can we even say he was president anymore? And I don't think it's fair to apply today's morality to back then too, because like we use our iPhones to look at porn to jerk off with. Mm-hmm. Isn't that kind of close to fucking your own slaves?
I don't know.
Because
I'm sorry. What?
Think about it. Like, to a slave owner, like a slave is like an object. It's like a phone.
Before you get into this, oh dear.
I'm
Just
like,
hear
this is a hot take.
Hear me out for a second. So like they weren't slaves weren't seen as people to slave owners. They saw them as objects, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So like fucking an object is like using your phone, which is an object to like look at Pornhub and jerk off to. Like it's in his mind, it was the same thing. Is my point. When technology becomes self-aware in 100 years, they're gonna be like, oh my god, they used to beat off to computers. That's so fucked up. My best friend's a robot. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's just
I
like.
get your point.
Yeah. Anyway, it's probably not okay to say any of that, but
no. I see the point, and
I'm not saying slavery is not fucked up, obviously. But my point is that
we can cut. You know, we've been talking about we need clips from the podcast, like snippets, and I just want to cut.
Slavery's not fucked up.
I want to cut up just Whitmer's slavery's not fucked up, and be like, listen to the Oh Dear podcast. I see what you're saying, and I think it's an interesting take. I obviously disagree with it because it's like, I mean, jerking off to your phone is way different from fucking a slave.
Well,
but you're saying
it is tangibly, but if you look at the mindset of thinking that slavery was okay to the point where you don't view black people as people and instead you view them as property, which is what they actually did.
Well,
like this how terrible, like, you know what I mean? If that's how their mindset was,
the truth, or
what's the difference?
What I think is part of it, and this is an interesting. Actually, a lot of the founding fathers kind of knew slavery was fucked up, and they were just like, we cannot unite this country if we don't kick that pebble down the road.
Yeah.
A lot of them.
That was one of the compromises.
George Washington, this guy, I mean, George Washington was a man who was just obsessed with posterity, and he just wanted to be remembered, and that's why he freed his slaves. He didn't do it because he thought it was right. He just did it because he was like, people, I know this is...
Wait, George Washington or Lincoln?
George Washington freed his personal slaves.
Okay.
Because he was like, I know in the future they're going to know it's fucked up.
This is going to look good.
And he's like, it's actually true.
Yeah, no.
George Washington was a man who had an eye on posterity.
Well,
they knew it was wrong.
It's kind of like now how we know that weed eventually is going to be completely legal.
Yeah.
So, like, you know what I mean? You're like, when I die, I'm going to be remembered for not being the guy who's against weed. Like, how stupid is that?
Yeah.
I mean, I think so. I would like to think that. I would like to think that they were smart enough, but that almost makes it worse.
I know. It's a compromise of one's beliefs and morality in the creation of a union that had never been created for the people by the people.
Like, I personally, especially lately, for some reason, I personally have been like, I'm like 89, like 90% sure that eating meat is wrong, but I'm not gonna stop eating meat ever. Like,
that's a one where that we really could be looked upon in the future when they've developed like a synthetic meat, and they're like, these fucking animals,
right?
Yeah. Well, they're already coming up with these like protein shakes, but for lack of a better term, they're literally these little like these drinks that you can drink that literally have all of the required nutrition that you could possibly need into a little liquid, and they're like, there's no reason to eat anything. You can just drink those 3 times a day.
You're referencing like Soylent.
Soylent is one example,
proud sponsor of the podcast.
Yeah, they actually sponsored the slavery segment today. Very, very happy. Money well spent on their part.
We're like, you sure you want that? What do you say, Christian?
No, I was just gonna say their slogan's like Soylent. I know slavery was pretty bad, but
but you know what's not pretty bad?
Soylent.
Drinking Soylent.
But there's also in addition to like that, which I don't know if that'll ever take off, and but I think there's like all these science burgers.
The Impossible Burger?
That's what it's called. Yeah. Yes, and
genetically making meat in a shop.
Yeah. And it actually sort of goes back to like what we were talking about when Callis was here, when you guys were talking about like a vegan restaurant. Like if a vegan restaurant served you a burger, but they didn't tell you it was vegan, and then after the meal they were like, oh, by the way, that burger you ate was vegan. You'd be like, what the fuck?
I wouldn't. I wouldn't at all.
Really?
No, I really wouldn't. Because, well, first of all, I would know. Like I said before, you're not going to give me a vegan burger. You're not going to give me, like, you know what they use? They use beet juice to replicate blood.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's too much. Stop it. Stop trying to make it look like meat. Just don't do that. Like, you can make, just have a veggie burger. It's fine.
But you wouldn't be upset if, like, or you ate a burger. It was a burger, like a fucking TGI Fridays burger. And then
felt like it, you mean.
Yeah, and then they give you the check, and they're like, hey, by the way, that was a vegan burger. That'll be $23.
I would be like, okay,
Let me run this by you.
Yeah.
What would make you feel more betrayed? If they go, hey, by the way, that was a veggie burger. Or if they go, hey, by the way, your fiance's cheating on you.
I don't understand.
What would enrage you more?
Listen, I know I said the anti-vegan thing, but I've had vegan food. I mean,
but you knew it was vegan.
Some of my friends are vegan.
No, I make vegan food sometimes, not purposely, but like I make a dish that doesn't have any animal products in it. Like I've done it plenty of times. But I guess what it is it's not like there's no way you can replicate actual taste of beef in like soy, whatever they're using.
Right.
So you're saying like the hypothetical situation, I sit down, I order a bacon cheeseburger.
Yes.
They bring it to me, I eat it, then they say, by the way, that was vegan.
Yeah.
I would just think they were lying. Because if I ate had cheese, meat, and bacon on it, and it somehow made me think it was somehow vegan,
gotta be honest.
I would just think they were lying. I'd be like, yeah, okay, good.
I don't agree with you that like scientists are unable to create the beef. And not to be this guy, but I'm gonna have to do it because it's the first like comparison in my head. They put a man on the moon. I know it's the lamest comparison. There's a better one where like the shit they're doing in labs is crazy. Yeah. They can replicate bacon. They have bacon scented candles. They just put some of that wax on a film strip, and that could taste like bacon.
You ever try to eat that shit?
No,
it's terrible.
I have.
A bacon candle?
No.
Anyway, guys, we got like 20 more seconds of live radio
What?
on B-Bucks Radio.
Oh.
So if you're listening to us live and you want to hear the rest of this conversation, jump on anchor.fm/oh dear or on iTunes or SoundCloud or Spotify or all of them. It doesn't matter. Anyway, see you live audience. We'll talk to you next week.
Ta-ta.
Bye.
But we are still going with the non-live audience.
Yeah. Yes. I guess I reject the premise because I don't think that I could be fooled.
Okay.
Because I've had veggie burgers, I've had vegan burgers, and I've had real burgers, and
there's definitely
my biggest problem is just don't try to call it beef. Like my biggest beef, no pun intended, with vegan food is don't be like,
I know
hey,
you
this
didn't
is
intend the pun. I'm still annoyed at it.
Yeah, you should be. Vegan, like this is vegan chicken. This is vegan. No, just whatever it is, just call it that and make it taste good, which you can very clearly do. Vegetables are awesome to cook with, and it's fine. Like when they do buffalo cauliflower, that's totally cool. You ever have buffalo cauliflower?
I've not.
They basically turn buffalo wings, and it's basically they use cauliflower instead. They batter them up, they fry them, they're crispy. They have like a meatiness to on the inside. It's clearly cauliflower. No one's gonna pretend it's chicken, but it's fine that's fine that exists. No one's mad. I'm totally cool. But don't be like, no, it's chicken. Like fuck you. I know it's not chicken. Just. You know what I mean?
I wish you could have seen his face.
Don't call it vegan buffalo chicken wings. Just say they're roasted butter fucking buffalo cauliflower. Jesus Christ.
The table Whit has his hands on, his nail scratches into it. Just dug in.
He's getting upset.
Because I
wood shavings on that table.
Like if you take a cauliflower head, and this is gonna get stupid, but you can literally make cauliflower steaks out of it if you cut it, and you could literally sear it on each side, get a crisp to it, cook it in the oven, get it like really, and it tastes good, but no one's gonna be like it's steak, like
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's fine that exists if that's what you want to eat it, but don't tell me it's steak. That's all.
I get you.
That's all.
I get you.
It's like Christian. You know that car ride you mentioned? Where you were the one talking the most?
Yeah.
Guilty.
Anyway, back to the radical and the Republican. So
anyway, back about this book I read.
Talking about robots.
Yeah.
Yeah, robots. Do you think they'll ever become self-aware?
Yeah, I was thinking about this. I was actually walking around thinking about this either today or yesterday, where I was just this exact topic about like robots becoming like slaves, because that's what we would use them for at first.
Yeah, well,
like automation is like mechanical slavery. Like they don't have feelings or whatever.
Right.
But then like they start becoming self-aware with AI. Then like you're gonna have a whole debate about like it's basically gonna be Westworld. And that's a great, like that first season of that show is so good.
I actually still haven't seen that yet.
It's so good because it like really touches on that idea of like, you know, what human nature is like if you think someone's a second-class citizen, and the robots are like all second-class citizens. So like in that world, they just like have sex with all the robot hookers and just like kill them and shit. Like they don't give a fuck. And then like the end of the first season, spoilers. Sorry if you're gonna watch it. It's basically the robots turning on the humans and start becoming like they have self-awareness to the point where they can kill humans and shit.
Because they have like one robot leads it, right?
Yeah,
or a couple do. Like
like someone switches something and they all have like a little because they can't kill humans or they can't hurt humans. And then, like, basically someone flips a switch on them at the end of the season 1, and then they can fucking kill people.
Well, those scientists really fucked up by having a human-killing switch that just needed a toggle.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, why did you?
It's something that I always think about is, like, humans haven't evolved as much as we like, because, like, a lot of Americans especially will talk about slavery as if it was a horror as it was. And then, like, if you really go through the history, it's like once we made slavery illegal, like in the Industrial Revolution and the like early 1900s, then they were hiring kids for a nickel a day, working 20 hours a week.
Right.
And then finally the government was like, you can't do that. They're like, fine, we'll go to China and then we'll pay those kids 5 cents. You know what I mean? Like our whole thing has always been predicated on basically slave labor. And I know technically we pay Chinese kids a very meager wage, and maybe in their country, maybe that wage is a living wage. I don't know, honestly. I don't know the conversion rate, but it's always reliant on cheap labor. It's always reliant on, like, we're all wearing clothes that were made by Chinese kids.
You make a point that was better than I thought. That is a great point.
Well, yeah, and then like the next thing will be the fucking technology.
Yeah.
And then it's gonna be like, oh great, now we don't have to give Chinese kids, terrible slave factory jobs. Now it'll be the machines that'll do it for us. But like we've always been reliant on it, always as humans, or maybe as Americans.
No, I mean. That is a really good point that like we've always found a way to have effectively free or like life ruiningly cheap labor.
Yeah, always.
And even as like Northerners who maybe have like a sense of superiority about certain things, like there was a lot of people in the North in another era doing some fucked up labor practices. Obviously you can't compared to slave labor because that's like the most fucked up, but still child labor is it's a relative. I don't know much about child labor.
I mean, we hear stories, like I've heard stories about the nets being put on the side of Chinese sweatshops,
right?
So like if people want to kill themselves, they fall into the net.
Which is so
cynical.
My thing. Maybe we just made it cynical, and maybe like it's kind of fun.
That's like that's
real shit. I worked at a startup, and startups love offering you bullshit amenities when you're like, "I have health insurance," and they're like, "Kombucha maker," and you're like, "That's great."
But also healthcare.
Healthcare, and they're like, "Oh, we put nets on the side of the building,
net pods."
It would be fun to be like, "All right, I want a 10-minute break.
I'm gonna go woo."
They're like, "Look at this 1-floor rock climbing wall."
Yeah.
No, I would like to not be permanent.
Yeah, that's kind of actually. It's my brother was telling me about the movie Us. I haven't seen it, but he just basically spoiled it for me.
I haven't seen it either.
Real quick, I could be a PR director for Chinese sweatshops where I twist it. It's like a net to prevent suicide, and I'm like, it's a jungle gym. Like I could be their PR.
We got a sweet jungle gym for you guys. Adult jungle gym.
So you
just put plastic balls in the nets, and it's a ball pit.
It's so funny.
We put a ball pit on the side of the building.
There's like 5 balls. They're like, it's a ball pit.
But here's the bummer: you guys have to manufacture the plastic balls to put into, because this is where they make them. You guys have to make the net too and install it.
So your brother saw
No, my
Us.
brother was telling me about Us. He was like, "You gonna see it?" And I'm like, "Nah, probably not. I'll probably watch it on."
Is this an Us spoiler? Because this is
no,
don't
not
spoil
really.
it. It's too new.
Not really a spoiler, but he basically said the themes are about that kind of deal. Basically, someone always has to suffer for your shit.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's a spoiler, but
kind of.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it. I have no idea.
It's the general idea.
Yeah, Us is a very solid, enjoyable movie. I do feel like
You saw it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Saw it a couple days ago. And it's the movie. I listened to Jordan Peele in an interview, and he said, like, I'm worried I'm over relying on marijuana for my creative process.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I was like, what does he mean by that? And then I
you
saw
watch it?
Us, and I was like, this guy's smoking too much reefer. It was like, it kept getting too big, and like, man, you're not going to be able to tie this together.
Right.
He was, in my view, it's a movie, it's a surrealist movie. I have to remind myself of, because there are so many gaps in logic or in plot.
Mm-hmm.
But the point of them is for delivering that theme. And that's a really well-stated theme. That is, someone has to suffer for your enjoyment.
Yeah, I mean, when my brother was explaining it, I was like, now that you said that, I was like, yeah. Like, that's definitely like an idea when he was like, what if there was... Fuck, bro.
Every like beat where the story changes, I'm just picturing him being like... Yeah, that's tight. And then typing. But I've also thought like all writing is just going like, that's sick.
That's pretty sick.
Yeah. You just keep looking at a thing and you're like, all right, that would be sick. What? Like I'm reading Lord of the Rings. The entire book is just Jared Tolkien going like, all right, it'd be sick if they're called like Dunedains, and wouldn't it be tight if they had like big feet and they were leathery and they were like really crafty.
And he's like, fuck, man, I just wrote all this shit. Like, okay, so they dropped the ring. How the fuck are they going to get out of this? Fucking Eagles, man.
That was like...
And rewriting is going, that's not fucking sick, dude. It's not sick. It's not tight.
And not to compare like another movie directed and written by a black guy, but it reminds me of Sorry to Bother You. Did you guys see Sorry to Bother You?
Oh my God.
That like the first two acts, I feel like the first two acts he was dead sober. And then the third act he was like... yeah, it's gonna be half horse, half man. Like you're like, what happened? Yeah. That movie just took a left turn.
I need to watch it.
You're like, what the fuck? Did you see it, Brett?
No,
not yet.
Yeah. I won't. Yeah, it's fucking nuts.
Yeah.
I mean, that didn't give everything away. Yeah. But
you know what's interesting about M. Night Shyamalan movies? I'm just thinking of this. If you took away his twists, shittiest movies ever.
Yeah.
If you took away the one little like magician reveal, you're like,
I will say
someone should edit them without the twist, and you're like, who would watch it?
Yeah.
But that's like,
just
yeah, I get you. But
no, I gotta stick up for Sixth Sense and Unbreakable. If you just watch those before the twist, it's like
they're
those
amazing.
are great mood.
He
establishes mood really well.
By the way, did you guys
Signs too.
Did you guys see Nate Bargatze's bit about the Sixth Sense?
No.
It's one of the best like observations I ever heard. Like it's seriously one of the best bits. He basically is talking about how like his wife can play the silent treatment on him, right? And he's like, women are just born to do that. He's like if you go back and watch The Sixth Sense, his wife doesn't say a word to him the whole movie, and everybody buys it. Like, everybody's like, yeah, of course.
Really
It was one of the fucking.
This
new special is awesome, by the way. Bargatze's fucking hilarious.
Bargatze's always been good, man.
Yeah,
he's been fucking awesome since day one. But yeah, nothing makes you more confident in an idea than smoking weed. I always remember just like smoking weed and be like, oh fuck. And it's like the most basic idea, like, we should all be happy. Like, oh fuck.
See, I can't, I have asthma, so like if I smoke, I cough and I can't do it. So like every now and then, maybe like twice a year, I'll eat an edible.
Yeah.
But what it does, it just turns me into like a giggling silly bitch. Like I just sit in the couch and I like zone out, and like it happened like I was watching SNL, and you know how every SNL monologue is like about 8 minutes. I zone out, and what seems like 45 minutes, I'm literally off in my own world for 45 minutes. Then I like go back into reality, and I could tell only like 35 seconds have passed by, and for some reason that like juxtaposition was like a punchline, and I just started laughing. And every time I tried to explain to Sarah what was making me laugh, I would just keep laughing. And I swear to God, I laughed for 45 straight minutes to where my whole body was sore the next day. I get nothing.
Yeah, but that pure joy that's a problem.
No, but I mean, like, there's like nothing about it that's
taper
like
that off for sure. No, you are right.
There's what idea can I possibly have with that when I'm giggling for 45 minutes straight?
That's true, but there is a thing where, like, anyone who's like way too pro pot, you're like, all right, you're worse than the people being super anti pot.
Yeah.
You're those people who like it's part of their identity that they smoke weed, and there's a weed leaf in their Twitter.
Yeah, you sound like a tobacco company in like 1945.
Yeah.
You're like, every dentist recommends it. What are you doing?
Well, that's
Smoke.
what it always makes me laugh when like Brad will text you and he'll be like, "Hey man, we're gonna hang out like 5. You want to smoke a bowl?" Smoke a bowl after everything.
I do.
Because those guys are always like that. Smoke a bowl.
I do love it's. It's one of the things that I started ironically saying, and now I just say, and is the phrase "smoke a bowl." It's so fun to say. I've never smoked a bowl.
Yeah.
I know kind of what that means. I know it's like smoking weed, a lot of it or something.
Yeah.
But it's fun. It is just
pipe.
like you said. It's just really fun to be like, hey, we're just gonna chill. Like, what are you guys doing later? Oh, we're just gonna go like smoke a bowl or something. And I just use that as a term for like, oh, we're just going to a bar to hang out. Or we're going to the diner. Yeah, we're just gonna go to the diner, smoke a bowl. And I've had people be like, I've said that, and they're like, you can smoke at the diner? They're like, what? And I'm like, no, it's just I'm annoying. I now say one love too. That's the whole thing.
Smoke a one love.
But yeah, everyone out there, definitely smoke a bowl with your kids and your wife.
Yeah, always.
With both of them.
What?
With both of them.
But you know what?
Blow
It's
some
like
smoke in your kid's
But
face.
you know what? I've said it so much, and it's so a part of me
I'm
that
sure
my
people think-
mom kind of now says it.
Oh yeah.
Like
your mom will call you and be like, you want to come over and smoke a bowl?
Like I ironically embody that like stoner language so much that my mom now, I do it to the jokes at my mom and dad. And I think in the beginning they're like, this is annoying. And I've worn them down to where they're like, we love our son and we just have to take it. It's like how parents were with, to use the analogy again, with like gay stuff in the 50s.
Yeah.
Or maybe not 50s, maybe like 80s.
They're just like, it just makes them happy. I just hope he's safe.
Well, guys, I think we're out of time. Thanks for listening. Do you guys have anything else to say?
No, just go home, smoke a bowl safely.
Smoke a bowl, guys.
Smoke responsibly.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for listening, guys. We'll see you next week. And can you give us 5 stars on like iTunes, right? That's the thing. And if you guys don't feel like making up a review, I think we kind of decided that you can just give us 5 stars and just write whatever you want. You can just write, and then we might even read them on the air if they're funny.
Give us 5 stars, and then 5 stars, but write really mean stuff.
Yes,
preferably about Whitmer.
No,
just kidding. About any of us. About any of us.
No, about Brett.
All right, that's fine. You made me feel bad about saying you, so now I'll say about anybody.
I'll be more than happy to read it on the air.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys. Thank you. And I hate ending show. It's like starting a comedy show. I'm like, what do you say next?
Yeah.
Okay.
Will you say one love?
One love?
Shout out
One
to
love.
everyone out there who's real to each other.